Alright, hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in once again to the Black Box Podcast. BBOR, Black Box Online Radio, coming to you from West Virginia. Alright, every week on this channel, I'm hoping that we can do at least one question and answer session where we read off your comments and questions, and we have a little bit of a discussion. Today we're going to be discussing the case of Brandon Lawson. I've only done one single upload on the case of Brandon Lawson, a disappearance from San Angelo, Texas, back in 2013. However, though, I really liked some of the comments that kind of came in, some of the early comments, and I was hoping that we could do a little bit of a discussion on this, because I think there's quite a bit of information that we can go to, and let's see where this takes us today. First of all, the upload that I did on about Brandon Lawson was entitled Brandon Lawson, Stapers Theory and 911 Call, because if you have any familiarity with the case of Brandon Lawson, of course we know that he had the very famous 911 call, and there's one particular sentence in there that people think might hold the key to this mystery. And originally it was sort of, transcribed as Stapers just threw some guys over, or Stapers just pulled some guys over, and we talked about this on the first upload, that Stapers could possibly be saying two words at the same time, like maybe he's saying state troopers and state police at the same time. We do this all the time. Just the other day, I was trying to say amazing and excellent at the same time, and I said, excellent. The same way, that he might have been saying state police and state troopers at the same time, so he just came out Stapers, like police and trooper put together, so it comes out as Stapers. That was my first really solid kind of theory associated with Brandon Lawson. After listening to the 911 call on the slowed down version, it really sort of sounded like there's also a very big possibility that he was saying the word escape. So maybe it's not Stapers at all. Maybe this has nothing to do with the state troopers or state police. Maybe he just said escaped just from these guys over. And I believe that he didn't finish the sentence because he just simply didn't know exactly how to describe where he was, because he was standing in the middle of a field. I just escaped from these guys over. Well, where exactly is he? Heading toward Abilene on both sides. So let's get to some of the questions that have been coming in, or the comments rather. Our first comment comes to us from Leslie Davis. Leslie says, he saw the state troopers after people, and he was asking for the cops because he was wanting to tell them where the people were. Okay, what I believe Leslie's comment is referring to is that I guess this theory is coming that she believes Brandon saw the state police trying to apprehend somebody, and in that process, the person they were trying to apprehend got away from the police, so that that guy starts running away and chasing after Brandon. Brandon runs into the field, and Brandon's first instinct is just to run. Once the police are trying to apprehend somebody, somehow that guy gets away, and he runs away. And Brandon called 911 asking for the police. In a response to that, just to let the police know, hey, this guy that you were trying to apprehend, that got away from you, he is, he's coming after me now. I just escaped from this guy over here. I escaped just from this guy over by the, headed toward Abilene on both sides. Meaning that there's a car on both sides of the road. And he started chasing after Brandon. That guy was probably armed. And then you hear those things that could be gunshots at the end of the 911 call. I think it's a very, very interesting starting point that we could just look at the possibility that perhaps, the state police were involved with this. State police just pulled some guys over, and I ran into him and all that stuff. And we really do believe, I think all parties now believe, when Brandon says that line on the 911 call that he ran into them, he's not talking about any sort of accident. He's not talking about any sort of anything other than, just kind of the figurative speech that he encountered something that he did not want to find. Very interesting thing from Leslie Davis. I would say that it answers a certain amount of questions, but the other thing that we would really want to know is that if the police were trying to apprehend somebody, or if the police were involved in any way, and if they did nothing wrong, then perhaps, why would they be so uncooperative? Why wouldn't they just be like, yeah, we were trying to apprehend somebody, and he got away from us. I mean, why wouldn't they just come forward with that? Another thing that I just thought of, kind of just came to my head right now, is that what if Leslie's comment is somewhat correct, that the police were trying to apprehend somebody, that person gets away, that person is armed, so the police start firing at both of them. Like, imagine, that sort of ending part of the 911 call, the police start just firing at this armed guy, and they accidentally hit Brandon by mistake. Well, that could be something there. I think it's a very, very big comment from Leslie Davis, big in the sense that there could be a certain degree of truth to that. I mean, the reason why Brandon would call and ask for the cops is that he wants the police to know where this individual is. I mean, we're just kind of, discussing possibilities here. It's a mystery for a reason. We don't have all the answers. Okay, but our next comment comes to us from Megan Cook. And Megan Cook says, I enjoyed your take on this, and I also enjoyed the crickets in the background, LOL. Well, thank you, Megan. Yes, I'm from West Virginia, and I recorded this in September, the tail end of the summer, so we're definitely going to have some sort of... Now we got a lot of crickets here. I'm pretty far out, definitely a country type. Okay, thank you very much for commenting. And our next one comes to us from Angie Wood 1. Angie writes really that there are two questions that, Angie wants us to discuss. Why was the 911 call edited? This is a very big point. The call that Brandon's wife, Ladessa, received, that thing that we actually are listening to on the internet, is not the full 911 call. People are very open about that. People discuss that very clearly, that this is not the 911 call in its entirety. So they're just like, why was this edited? And that's a giant, it's an absolute giant question. I'm not sure if that's 100%, protocol or something for them to just release a certain thing to the public or not, but a certain thing as opposed to the entirety of the call. It also really gives a lot of suspicion that, are the state police trying to hide something? Why wouldn't they just release the entire 911 call if they did nothing wrong? I don't know, maybe there is a reason that is unbeknownst to us. But that's Angie's first question. Angie's second question is, were the state troopers in the area ever checked out, and their time frame ever checked? Okay, that's referring to, are there any records that there were state police responding to an issue? Is there evidence that, the state police were on that road at that time? If they were trying to apprehend somebody, is there any sort of, calling something in? Is there anything going on? Do they have any records of that night? Were there any troopers that were doing something in that area? Were they trying to apprehend somebody? What are the records? And Angie's really also says that she believes that this is something that could really shed a light on the case. This could really answer a lot of questions. Well, I would say yes, absolutely. Now, for the longest time, I was really believing that the state troopers were involved. I would really hope that that's not the case. I would hope that, that someone in law enforcement would not abuse their power to this extent that could most likely result in the death of Brandon Lawson, because I do believe that Brandon is dead, no matter what outcome we're examining. But when we want to look at this from its very particular, similarities, like the very, very obvious kind of facts that we have in front of us, what we can say is the 911 call was edited. I'm not completely convinced that Brandon is saying the word state police now. I really have started to entertain kind of a larger theory that Brandon, saw someone doing something, and that person responded in a very destructive way. We don't necessarily know what that was. People have, said not only state police, this could be someone associated with the drug cartels, this could be someone doing some other illegal behavior, this could be somebody, like we talked in the first upload, like, what if, his truck ran out of gas and a car is passing by who yelled at him and Brandon said, fuck you, or something like that, and that guy just went berserk, and it could just be something like that, and it's very difficult to unravel the thinking of a madman when we could look at this from a different perspective. No sightings of Brandon ever since the 911 call, other than a ping from his cell phone 3.2 miles from where the 911 call took place. That really gives me the impression that Brandon was, well, I believe, that based on the sounds at the end of the 911 call, that he was shot and murdered either during that call or very shortly after. I do believe that Brandon passed away that night and someone disposed of the body. The only place that we could look would be somewhere around that last cell phone ping 3 miles from where the 911 call took place. But what's pushing me away from the whole notion of police is just the concept of escaped just from these guys over. What if that is just what he's saying? What if he just tried to call 911 to say that he escaped from some, dangerous situation? He ran away and he was in the middle of a field and he thought that, he just had enough kind of open area that he could call for help, that he could call for 911, that he could call 911 to get the cops, and because what else can you do? I mean, what else could you really do in a situation like that? When we're examining something such as the drug cartel theory, though, granted, Leslie, Angie, and Megan didn't say anything about drug cartels, but that's one of the larger things that has been discussed online. I don't really know why there would be anything associated with the drug cartel. I mean, why would they be doing any sort of activities like that on the side of a road in between San Angelo and Abilene? You had these enormous open fields that Brandon was running through on both sides of you. Why are you going to just park on the shoulder of the road so everybody can see? I mean, unless you're extremely, extremely careless and reckless, I can't really testify to anything such as that, but I don't really think that makes a very plausible theory that the drug cartels were involved with this. I'm not saying I know 100%, but I don't necessarily get that vibe from this particular instance. And once again, if Brandon's saying that he escaped from something, and we know that there are things on both sides, most people interpreted that to mean that there were 2 state trooper cars on both sides of the road. Another thing that I've thought about since that he could be trying to say is that maybe his truck is on one side and someone else's car is on the other side. So when people would be looking for them, they would see that there are 2 cars on each side of the road, his truck on one side and, someone else's car on the other. And we don't necessarily know what that means. I've entertained the possibility that perhaps Brandon ran out of gas, right? So he walked over to another car and he was just simply wanted to ask, excuse me, do you have a gas can or something like that? And that person, just once again went berserk on him because, well, maybe doing some sort of illegal behavior, maybe just Brandon saw something that he shouldn't have had. Maybe that guy had something illegal in his car, or who knows what that could be. I really think that, he's trying to convey that he escaped from somebody who was trying to do something destructive to him. I really just can't imagine what he could have seen. But once again, I think the most important parts here are really just not exactly what was the motivation for someone to shoot Brandon. It's more just who was involved. Was this the state police, or was this just, some maniac who kind of went berserk for some reason? And I'm really kind of leaning toward the latter. I think it's very possible that the state police would be involved, and I get the personal gut feeling that this was just kind of some deranged individual who saw Brandon walking toward his car. Is excuse me, do you have a gas can? Oh crap, I gotta kill this guy because he saw something he shouldn't have. But if that's the case, Angie Wood has this excellent comment. Why wouldn't they just release the entirety of the 911 call? What's there to hide? If no one did anything wrong, what is there to hide? And the second comment is, if the state police had any records, they would just be they would just, say that they were there, but they didn't, weren't able to do anything. If we're actually looking at Leslie's comment was that the state police were trying to apprehend somebody and that person got away. And the only possibility that I could think Leslie's comment and Angie's comment would work together is if the police were trying to apprehend somebody and Brandon walked over and Brandon saw what they were doing. That startled them so that this assailant got away, and then that guy started chasing after Brandon. And the police started firing because they thought the assailant was armed, and somehow they shot both of them. Then they were like, oh, well, we accidentally killed this innocent bystander, so then they covered it up. That's the only way that I think that these 2 comments could work together. I'm not saying I know 100%, but what we can definitely say is Brandon encountered a very dangerous situation. It sounds like there are gunshots at the end of the 911 call. There could be something else that is causing that, but I really do believe that Brandon was shot that night. I believe that he is no longer alive. His body was disposed of somewhere, probably Oh, I don't really know if we'll ever get a definitive answer. To be honest, I don't think that this case is ever going to be solved unless we get some sort of confession, unless we get somebody coming forward to actually give what happened. Oh, I know that we're talking about the state troopers, and these comments here are very, very specific to state troopers being involved. For over a year, I thought state troopers were involved. But I have this kind of, change of heart about this, because I really want to say that I'm getting the feeling that the state troopers were not. And that's nothing more than a gut feeling. That saying thinking with your brain versus thinking with your gut. My gut feeling, my gut instinct is telling me that this was something that did not involve the state troopers. That this was somebody who Brandon approached because he just wanted to know if the guy maybe had a gas can or something. And that guy was just like, Brandon saw something in this person's vehicle that he should not have seen. It could have been something, like drugs. It could have been something like illegal stolen property. Maybe that guy was with a person he shouldn't have been with. I have no flipping clue. And we also have the possibility is just like maybe Brandon and him just exchanged some harsh words, and that guy knew that Brandon was in the middle of nowhere, so he pulled a gun on him. It's like, we don't necessarily know. And also on the 911 call, Brandon says very definitively that he does not need 911, he needs the cops. So we've talked about the possibility on the previous recording about whether or not that is two voices or one. I believe that it is one voice, and so did Brandon's wife, Ladessa. Now, I think that I'm kind of have this very large split. I gave everything that I said right there. My gut is telling me that, this was just a kind of maniac that Brandon encountered, some guy that went crazy on him. But my brain, my thought process telling me that Leslie and Angie have kind of really put something together where they are saying that Brandon encountered something. Brandon saw the police involved with some sort of behavior. We don't know if they were necessarily doing something illegal to people or not, or maybe they were just actually dealing with somebody who they were trying to, arrest, and then that guy got away, so the police started firing because that guy had a gun on him, and they accidentally hit Brandon as well. I definitely think that answers all the questions. I think that answers 100% of the questions. It's like you could be talking about the Stapers, the state police / state troopers, or you could also be sort of explaining why the 911 call wasn't edited, why the police have not been more cooperative, why the state troopers are not saying anything about whether or not they were in the area. All of these things kind of fall in. Everything just kind of makes sense if we look at it from that angle. I mentioned one possibility on the first recording that, I don't even like saying it out loud, but that Brandon saw the state troopers doing something illegal to a group of undocumented individuals, Texas and illegal immigration and all that, and then they were like, oh crap, a witness has, seen us doing something illegal to somebody. I can't provide a single ounce of supporting evidence for that. That was just my initial feeling about the case. So Brandon takes off running and then he gets shot, but Leslie has provided a better explanation, I would say, that just simply the police were trying to apprehend somebody who was possibly armed, and because Brandon walked over, that startled them, so the assailant got away. Brandon's first instinct was to run. The assailant runs in the same direction. Brandon calls 911 just to let, police know what's going on. And also that's all he can do at that point, because he doesn't have any firearm on him. And he can't do anything to neutralize the situation. Then that person, and Brandon started, edging closer together. The police start firing, trying to get the assailant, and then they ended up hitting Brandon by mistake. That, I think, provides both of these comments sort of work together in a way that gives a very plausible narrative. Unless, I sound like I'm not making any sense at all. If you think that you can shed some light on this, if you think that you can challenge anything that we've put forward here, please drop a comment below. Let's keep discussing this a little more, and maybe we'll actually make some ground in this case. Thank you to Leslie, Angie, and Megan for your comments. That's all for me. Until next time.